Greetings and welcome to our next session. As I have already said, today I would like to talk about faith. But nowadays, we can see many new ideas, perspectives, understanding about what faith is about. And the thing is, lots of those ideas are based on a personal experience about faith and about God. It is good. But in many cases, the knowing of God, they do not know the real picture of God, who God really is. I remember my study, when I was still studying psychology in Manila, Philippines. I remember at one of our classes, we had such of a casual talk about faith, and one of the students says, faith is a genetic predisposition which we inherited from the parents. And immediately somebody said, what about those parents who didn't believe and yet the children believe? Or vice versa, the parents believe and the children, they don't believe. We have many beautiful concepts about faith based on the intellect. How it goes. People, they first and foremost, they want to know God in such a way that to touch Him, to experience Him, and then to say, I believe in God. That's not faith. That's knowledge. That's simply knowledge. It has nothing to do with faith. So we just remain and we stay with our concept of faith. Faith is the intimacy, your intimacy with God and God's intimacy with you. You remember the passage about the mustard seed. God says, Jesus says, faith is like mustard seed. The power of faith is like mustard seed. At the very beginning, that seed is the smallest of all the trees around. But once the seed is planted into the ground, it grows and becomes the biggest, the beautiful, the most beautiful tree. And that is precisely with our intimacy. At the beginning, our intimacy with God is small. We don't see it. We cannot touch it. We don't understand it. But once we commit ourselves personally, we encounter Him personally and listen to Him personally, we can really experience the growth of the intimacy and see the power of the intimacy. St. Paul, in his letter to Romans, chapter 10 and verse 17, it says, faith begins with listening to the words of Jesus Christ. With listening to the words of Jesus Christ. Not with listening to the words of other people, what they say about faith. They can inspire us. But faith begins with listening to the words of Jesus Christ. And that is the beauty. What is the progress of faith in a child? Sometimes it seems like as if the parents, they try by all logic, put into the logic of a child and tell him, you should believe, you should go to the church, you should pray every day in the morning, and so on. But we know that the brain of a child is not yet developed. It's just the beginning. It's the beginning of the stage of development. And there is no inspiration about seeking God. But just imagine, the same child can see a father, I'm saying a father, who is kneeling in a prayer every evening. And what happens? That fascination, that question which appears in that child's mind. And the child is asking, who is the one? Who is the one my father is kneeling in front of? And this fascination, this question remains for years in the child and as a young person, seeking the answer, who is truly the one my father was kneeling always every evening in the prayer. Young people, young generation, by nature, they refuse, they reject any authority, the parent, the school, and of course God in somehow. They need a space, they need a time to search on their own, to find their own meaning, values, and so on. So we don't be so worried about if they at certain point they say, I don't believe in God. Don't worry. Just we need to be with them, walk with them, accompany them, to create a positive atmosphere for them to make a good way of exploration and learn. Adults, it is very difficult to believe in God when our faith as an adult is still based on what my parents said to me about God, or what the parish priest or catechist they told me about Jesus Christ. No, that's not faith. As a grown-up person, I'm invited to encounter him personally, to listen to him personally. You remember that a passage from the Gospel of John, chapter 4, verse 42. The people from the Samaritans, they say to the woman, in fact, the woman, through her saying and witnessing of Jesus, she inspired them. She truly inspired them to leave their own town and to go and to encounter personal Jesus Christ. But once they listened to him personally, they met him personally, they come back to that woman and say to her, we do not believe anymore because what you said, we have heard him. And we recognize that truly he is the Son and the Savior of the world. Look, the encounter, personal encounter. What happens? Faith and coming to know the true nature of God, who God is. And that is precisely the moment, the beginning of this intimacy. I am inspired. I am fascinated by the nature, true nature of God, the Savior of the world. And that is the beginning of my personal encounter, my personal listening to him and walking with him. I would like to invite you for our next session. Next session, I will share with you some one or two experiences of faith based on my mission life.